Good afternoon, students. Today we discuss about 12th D accountancy morning video, afternoon video. So in this video we discuss about ratio analysis. In continuation of ratio analysis, in this video we discuss about debt equity ratio and proprietary ratio. In the case of debt equity ratio, it is a ratio in order to calculate the long-term solvency position of a business concern. So this ratio will express the relationship between long-term debt and shareholders fund. So the formula for finding debt equity ratio is long-term debt by shareholders fund. So in order to find out the long-term debt, we should take only the debenture value, bond, long-term loans and other borrowings in case of long-term debt. And for shareholders fund, we should take equity share capital, preference share capital, reserves and surplus. So these are some of the information should be taken in order to calculate debt equity ratio. Let us see one example sum for finding debt equity ratio. So here in illustration 4, they are asking to find out debt equity ratio. So before go through the sums, we should know the formula for debt equity ratio. So the formula for debt equity ratio is long-term debt by shareholders fund. So from the given information, if you want to take the long-term debt means we should take only the long-term borrowings, that is debenture 80,000. It is only one long-term borrowings. It is assumed as long-term debt. In order to find out the shareholders fund, you should take equity share capital 1 lakh, reserves and surplus 60,000, and we add these two amounts, the shareholders fund will be 1,60,000. So first you should make a work note in order to find out the long-term debt, that is debenture 80,000, shareholders fund equity share capital plus reserves and surplus. So the shareholders fund will be 1,60,000, and then you can write the formula debt equity ratio is equal to long-term debt by shareholders fund. The long-term debt value is 80,000, shareholders fund value will be 1,60,000. While simplifying these numerator and denominator, the proportion is 0.5:1. Next, in order to find out the proprietary ratio, it is the ratio will give the proportion of shareholders fund and total tangible assets. So proprietary ratio show the extent to which the total assets have been financed by the shareholders fund. So in order to find out this ratio, the formula will be shareholders fund by total tangible assets. So let us see one example for this ratio. From the following balance sheet of Pioneer Limited, calculate proprietary ratio. So in this example sums, some of the information are given. We should make a work note for shareholders fund. In this example, the shareholder fund will be equity share capital, preference share capital, reserves and surplus. That is 1,75,000 and 25,000. The total will be 2 lakh. It is the shareholders fund. And then in order to find out the total tangible assets, in asset side, take fixed asset 2,75,000, non-current investments 50,000, cash and cash equivalent 75,000. So all these three assets are tangible assets. So the total value of the tangible asset will be 4 lakh. First you should make the work note for these two informations, that is shareholders fund is equal to equity share capital plus preference share capital plus reserves and the surplus. That is what 2 lakh rupees. 1 lakh plus 75,000 plus 25,000, 2 lakh rupees. And then after making the work note, you can write the formula. Property ratio is equal to shareholders fund by total tangible asset or total asset. that is 2 lakh by 4 lakh. If you simplifying it, the proportion will be 0.5:1. And then capital gearing ratio. So in order to find out capital gearing ratio, the formula will be fixed, that is funds bearing fixed interest and fixed dividend by equity shareholders fund. So the capital gearing ratio is the proportion of fixed income bearing funds to equity shareholders fund. So fixed income bearing funds include fixed interest and fixed dividend bearing funds. In the case of funds bearing fixed interest and dividend means percentage preference share capital, percentage debentures, bonds, long-term borrowings. So all these are fixed interest bearing funds and fixed dividend in the case of preference share capital. So you should take all these four values in order to find out funds bearing fixed interest and dividend. In order to find out the equity shareholders fund means equity share capital plus reserves and surplus. You should not take preference share capital for equity shareholders fund. We should take only the equity share capital plus reserves and surplus. So in order to make more understanding for capital gearing ratio, we discuss one example sum, that is illustration 6. In this illustration 6, they are asking to find out the capital gearing ratio. So from the given information, we need funds bearing fixed interest and fixed dividend. That is 6% preference share capital 1 lakh, and then long-term borrowings 8% debenture 2 lakh. So totally 3 lakh will be the fixed interest and fixed dividend funds. And then equity shareholders fund means equity share capital plus general reserve plus surplus. Equity share capital 2 lakh, general reserve 1 lakh 25,000 and surplus is 75,000. So totally 4 lakh. So first you should make a work note in order to find out the fixed interest bearing funds and equity shareholders fund. For finding the fixed interest bearing funds, we should take 6% preference share capital and 8% debenture. While adding these two amounts, the total funds bearing fixed interest and dividend is 3 lakhs. 1 lakh plus 2 lakh, 3 lakh. For finding the equity shareholders fund, we should take equity share capital plus general reserve and plus surplus. Equity share capital is 2 lakh, general reserve is 1 lakh 25,000 and surplus is 75,000. So totally 4 lakh is equity shareholders fund. So after finding these two work notes, then come to the formula. Capital gearing ratio is equal to fixed interest funds bearing fixed interest and dividend by equity shareholders fund. We already find out funds bearing fixed interest and fixed dividend, that is the value will be 3 lakh, and then equity shareholders fund will be 4 lakh. So 3 lakh by 4 lakh. While simplifying it, the proportion will be 0.75:1. So by this way you can easily find out the solvency ratios, that is debt equity ratio, proprietary ratio and capital gearing ratio. So students, you can go through all these points, that is solvency ratio, 3 types of ratios and 3 example sums. You can go through it and you can work out 3 example sums once again in your sums assignment notebook accountancy. And also you can do illustration 7 also. In this illustration 7 they are asking 3 ratios in one sum: debt equity ratio, proprietary ratio and capital gearing ratio. So totally you should work out 4 example sums. Example 4, 5, 6, 7. 4 example sums. Likewise 4 exercise sums. Exercise 4, 5, 6 and 7. So totally you should work out 8 sums. So go through all the points which are taught in this video, and you can work out 8 sums in your accounts assignment notebook. Previously we discussed about the current ratio and the quick ratio, and I hope you understand that, and you already worked out 1, 2, 3 example sums and exercise sums in your notebook. So now you should work out 4 example sums and 4 exercise sums. So totally today you have to work out 8 sums. So keep the notebook safely, and you should send a task complete message in the group without fail. Thank you.